My name is Laura and I'm a careers advisor for the National Careers Service. Today I would like to talk to you about the importance of having a 21st century CV. In the session today, we'll be looking at why having a CV is still important, how employers recruit in the 21st century and making sure that you have a modern CV, general tips to ensure that you create the best CV possible, particularly focus on the importance of a personal profile and skills section, looking at ways to make your CV stand out from the crowd, avoiding top mistakes that people make, and finally, why you can go for further support if needed. Who are the National Careers Service? We are a publicly funded careers service available to people who live in England and is supported by qualified careers advisors. We offer free and impartial information, advice and guidance to help you with your decisions about careers, courses and work. You can find lots of useful resources on our website, or if you feel you need more detailed and personalised support, you can speak to an advisor one-to-one over the phone. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Just search @Careers West Mids. You might be questioning why having a CV is so important, particularly in the 21st century. After all, aren't CVs an old-fashioned way of applying for work? So do you really need one? The answer is yes, you do, most definitely. Many employers still ask for a CV. It's the easiest way to quickly view if someone is right for the job. Much easier than reading through long-winded application forms. Imagine if you had a few hundred of them to read. CVs are quick, simple and get to the point. At least a good CV should anyway. They are extremely versatile. You can send them to anyone, either digitally or a paper copy. Have you ever been in a situation when someone said, just email me over your CV or pop by with your CV? Also, you can't sign with most agencies unless you have a CV. Depending on the type of work you're looking for, you might rely heavily on agencies to find work. And with the development of technology, loads of vacancies are now advertised on job sites. And you can't apply for a job unless you register on the site. And you can't register on the site unless you have a CV to upload. Now, there will be times when applying for a job means you have to fill out an application form. But how many times have you been filling the employment history section and you can't remember the date or name of employer you worked for in the past? So having your CV to hand will make this so much easier and will also ensure that the information you're putting down is accurate. Finally, if you are claiming benefits, part of your agreement is to have a CV. So I think we can safely say that having an up-to-date and good quality CV is a must when you are looking for work. Now we've established that lots of employers still use a CV to recruit for vacancies, we now need to look at how the way an employer uses a CV has changed. Traditionally, employers were focused on looking at your work history and job experience, so CVs are mainly concentrated on illustrating this information. This is called a chronological CV, which lists in date order the places you have worked and is an old-fashioned way of creating a CV. But recruitment isn't like that anymore. Employers are now more focused on your transferable skills and your personal development through work. They want to know what you have to offer compared to someone else. This is called a skills-based CV, where you sell the particular skills, abilities and personal traits that you have and how they match what the employer is looking for. Selling yourself using a skills-based CV means you can be more versatile in the jobs you're applying for. If you think you have the right selling points, then apply for the job. It doesn't matter if you haven't done that job role before. An employer is now more interested in how your professional experience and skills enables you to do the job, and not necessarily if you have done this job before. Many employers scan CVs looking for keywords. By using a skills-based CV format, you're more likely to include these essential keywords. In fact, increasingly employers are starting to use a point scoring system when reviewing your CV. So an employer will outline what their perfect candidate would look like in terms of qualifications, experience, skills and personality. When reviewing your CV, an employer will compare this to their desired perfect person, and they will give you a point every time you mention something that matches. So the more points you earn, the higher chance of getting an interview. Here's a crazy thought. Technology is so advanced nowadays, an employer can use software to scan CVs on the internet looking for particular keywords. If a CV scores a high percentage of these keywords, then an employer will review the rest of the CV. So with no effort at all, an employer can have a selection of CVs where the candidate matches what they are looking for. Imagine how much time that would save. So including keywords is a major top tip for a good CV. Let's get started on putting together a CV. So a CV is a very important marketing tool to enable you to tell employers about yourself and your career. It helps you to showcase your work skills, abilities and achievements, your life skills and good personal qualities that you have. Your CV is an advertisement about you, and it's important that the CV shows how you match the requirements of the vacancy. To begin with, here are a few top tips to think about when creating a CV. The biggest mistake that most people make is using the same CV to apply for every job. Your CV needs to be tailored towards the job you are applying for by thinking about what the employer will be looking for and emphasising key skills you have that meet the job needs. You can do this by creating a strong personal profile and a skills section at the beginning of your CV and using loads of wonderful power words. Another common mistake is worrying about missing out information. So putting everything on your CV and ending up with a CV that is pages and pages long. Ask yourself, is an employer really going to read through all the information and pick out the relevant bits? Probably not. If you make sure your CV is tailored, then it will be short and to the point. Your CV shouldn't really be more than 2 pages long. Finally, check and double check for errors and spelling mistakes. Remember, your CV is the first impression an employer has of you, so make it a good one. Your CV should start with a personal profile. This is a powerful paragraph that outlines who you are, what you can offer, and what your career goals are. It should be no more than 5 lines. If an employer is not gripped by this opening statement, they may not bother to read the rest of your CV. So it really is that important. Let's look at a generic personal profile that lots of people use. I consider myself to be hardworking, reliable, honest and trustworthy individual. I am easygoing, friendly and a caring person with a responsible and hard-working approach. Equally capable of working both within a team and on my own initiative, I am willing to undertake training. What is wrong with this statement? Firstly, each sentence begins with I, which can make it boring to read and lack flow. There is repetition, as hard working is mentioned twice. It seems very generic, like hundreds of personal profiles, and therefore wouldn't stand out. It's not tailored towards a particular role and doesn't mention the type of work they are looking for or any career goals. Basically, from reading this profile, I have no idea what type of work this person is looking for and what they can offer. Nothing in this personal profile stands out. What should a good personal profile look like then? Now let's look at a targeted personal profile. A kind, caring and patient person who enjoys working with children of preschool age, passionate about pursuing a career in childcare after completing a work placement and level 1 childcare qualification. Ideally looking for a trainee position. A creative in person who enjoys engaging and communicating with young children through play and learning. As you can see, this profile is much stronger. It has a clear job goal. There are important personal traits included that are essential for the role. It mentions relevant experience and skills. Finally, it's personalised, so you get a feel for what the person is like. Imagine you're an employer looking to hire a childcare apprentice for your nursery. Out of these 2 CVs, which would you put in the bin and which would you carry on reading? Following from your personal profile, you now need to include a skills section on your CV. This is your chance to highlight the fantastic skills you have developed. However, it is important that you are selective with the skills you include in this section. You only need 5 or 6 skills, which isn't many, so you need to make sure the ones you are including are relevant to the job you're applying for. There is no point trying to sell a skill you have if it is not needed for the job. So what does this section look like? To make it easy, you can bullet point these skills. This will also make this section of your CV stand out. You could keep it simple and put a skill for each bullet point. For example, bullet point 1, good communication. Bullet point 2, enjoys being part of a team. And bullet point 3, positive approach to problem solving. I have seen many CVs that list their skills like this, but does it really tell me much about your knowledge and experience of that particular skill? How can we give a skill more depth and meaning? I would suggest that you include some information regarding how you use a particular skill. So, instead of putting good communication, you could put a few sentences to support that skill. For example, using a range of techniques to engage young people such as voice, face expression and body language. Adapting approach to support the development of children with a range of learning difficulties and styles, maintaining good communication links with parents. And instead of putting enjoys being part of a team, you could say working in a small team to ensure the well-being and development of those in our care, being flexible to support others when needed, and developing close working relationships. And finally, instead of putting positive approach to problem solving, you could include a sentence such as relishes the challenge of unravelling problems and finding solutions that help others. Face these tasks with practical and enthusiastic approach. Looking at these two examples, which do you think sounds more impressive? Just putting down a skill or including some information demonstrating your experience of that skill? Here are a few things to consider to ensure that your CV stands out from the crowd. Start strong. Create a good personal profile and skills section at the beginning of your CV. This will attract and grab attention. Emphasise results. In your work history, avoid listing past responsibilities and instead focus on what you achieved. Customise. Respond directly to the job description and explain exactly why you are the perfect candidate for the role. Growth. Highlight changes and growth. In your CV, you should focus on your personal development. Show how you have grown and changed in your roles and the accomplishments you have achieved. Use power words. Using power words will emphasise your accomplishments and will give your CV additional impact. When creating your CV, there are a few top mistakes to avoid. Poor formatting. CVs that aren't clear and easy to read are a huge turn-off for employers. On average, employers spend around 8 seconds viewing your CV, leaving you little time to make a good first impression. It's therefore important to keep your CV concise so that it can be absorbed quickly. The template that you choose to use should be uncluttered, so avoid confusing layouts and be aware of using different fonts and sizes. Failing to tailor your CV. When it comes to CVs, one size doesn't fit all. Everything that you include must be completely tailored to the role you're applying for. This will make it easier for employers to see that you're the perfect candidate for the job, so don't be afraid to avoid irrelevant information. Spelling mistakes. There is no excuse for spelling mistakes. An error-free CV is vital in showcasing your precision and attention to detail, so check everything, even your contact details. Spell check and proofread your CV yourself before asking others to cast a critical eye over it. Lying. When you're trying to get your foot in the door and impress potential employers, it's tempting to be a bit flexible with the truth, because who's going to check, right? Wrong. The facts on your CV are easy to find out, so never assume that an employer won't make inquiries to do so. At best, your lies will be obvious and your CV will be rejected out of hand. At worst, you may be invited for an interview where either you'll trip yourself up or be asked questions that you're unable to answer. That would be a little embarrassing. Lack of evidence. It's easy to make generic and empty statements on your CV. However, failing to effectively evidence your skills, achievements and experiences can be a big mistake. So make sure you put some good examples in your skills section. Ignoring gaps in your work history. Gaps in employment history are fairly common and rarely a problem as long as they're explained. So don't worry about gaps of a couple of weeks. But if you've been out of work for a year or more, you need to clearly and concisely explain why. Any explained absences of this length will be looked upon with suspicion by potential employers and will give the impression that you've been idle during this time. Don't be afraid to let employers know that you took some time out to volunteer, look after a sick relative, or travel the world. There's also no shame in informing employers of a period spent away from work due to an illness, medical condition, or redundancy. If you're concerned about this, you could further explain gaps in your work history in a covering letter. I hope you found the information in this session useful today. If you do feel you need additional guidance on creating a winning CV, further support is available on the National Careers Service website, and you can also contact our helpline for free to arrange a one-to-one appointment over the phone. There's some useful information available on Prospects University's careers website, and many recruitment websites such as Reed and Monster have free resources available on CV writing and tips. Please feel free to contact the National Careers Service on 0800 100 900 or visit our website on nationalcareers.service.gov.uk, where you will find lots of useful information and resources around CVs. Don't forget you can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. We'd really appreciate your feedback, so please let us know your views by completing our online survey.